Welcome to the show. It's time to unwind with Dave B and Dave D, the best brews you'll find. Craft beer talk, it's a passion we share. From hops to malts, we're taking you there. This is Daftaboutcraft, where the good times flow. Sit back and relax, let the flavors glow. Brews, news, and views, we've got it all right. Cheers to craft beer, let's raise it tonight.
Daftaboutcraft, the craft beer podcast.
Well, Christmas is fast approaching and we are here with a bit of Daftaboutcraft for you. Welcome to episode 78 with me, Dave D.
And me, Dave B.
Thank you very much for joining us. Well, what have we got for you this time? We've got an interview with Ed from Osset Brewery and Salt Brewery, which is a very interesting one, Dave, because they're trying to push the craft brand with Osset and they've got an established craft brand with Salt. So there's lots to talk about.
Fair play to Ed. He didn't sort of shirk us asking about Salt because it would be quite easy to maybe not talk about that as much because Salt, as you say, very known craft brand, but also probably what you would class these days as a macro craft brand. Whereas Osset, well, we found out as part of our chat just the size of the scale of their operation, didn't we? It took us back a bit. But Osset, I sort of thought was a bit more of a smaller player than they actually are. So it was quite interesting for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, and we have some lovely, lovely beer with what I may say, the best description of a beer we've ever had on the podcast.
Yes.
To give you a brief reminder and put listeners in the picture, it was the one about the most wonderful Egyptian cotton sheets and a
yes, I remember now, yes.
So, yeah, tune in for that and you'll hear all about it. Now, we've had a little bit of a think about one of the features we do on the podcast. Going to mix it up a little bit with a brand new feature called What's in the Fridge. So no Brew To Me this time. We've got What's in the Fridge. We've got Tried and Tested, our favourite beer since we last spoke. And instead of hype or tripe this time, we're testing out a beer, Dave, called 100 Not Out.
Yes, which I spotted. Actually, no, I didn't spot. That's a complete lie. My mum spotted it. This is the influence podcast reaches these days and said this might be quite good for your podcast because the USP is it's a beer that's been brewed by Wiper and True, but it's been brewed with hops that have been grown by people in a care home. And the idea of the beer is to help those with dementia, which is a very worthwhile cause. So we reached out to Guy Manchester, who has brought that project together. He explains plenty more about the whole thing. And we went and got a couple of beers off Wiper and True, the 100 Not Out beer, and we'll just have a little taste of it while we listen to Guy.
Excellent. So let's now kick on with that brand new feature we talked about. Dave, what's in your fridge?
Well, I don't know because this is actually a continuation. When we're recording, this is a continuation of my advent calendar, which we've been putting you've been putting videos up. I get Katie to take one and then send it to you, and you do the hard yards with it. So I don't know what the beer is or the style or anything like that. And the reason we started doing this, not only because of my advent calendar, but we have just felt that Brew To Me in some ways has just become a bit trickier, hasn't it? It's possibly a bit slightly reflective of the scene as a whole, unfortunately, where there are breweries out there which we don't know about, as evidenced by a beer that was on the advent calendar yesterday, which neither of us had heard of, Razor Clam down in Cornwall. So they are about, but they are becoming harder to find and harder to sort of either get hold of or just to have access to, because it might be that there are these people that they don't necessarily can or bottle or anything. It's just all on cask or keg. So we thought, well, we've normally got plenty of beer in the fridge and it might be stuff that's been knocking around for months. Why don't we just open one blind and then see what it is and see if we can sort of pick out a bit of the main features, who it might be brewed by, etc., and just sort of test ourselves while also depleting our fridge stocks.
Absolutely. Our fridges get overrun with beers. It's ridiculous. I fished one out the other day. I put it up on Instagram, actually, and it was canned in 2020. Now, ridiculous. I actually drank it and it was still really good. It was a stout. So they can last, these beers, but we just get too many and we need to do something to get through them. And this feature is a part of that as well.
Yes, and I have some of those same beers as well still. And they've made the house move with us and everything, so they will get drunk at some point. But anyway, without further ado...
So this beer has been wrapped up for Dave. He hasn't unwrapped it. He's just opened the top of it, poured it into his glass, so he doesn't know what it is. I've got the same situation here with the beer all wrapped up, and we're both going to try and guess what they are. So yeah, looks hazy, looks sort of IPA-ish to me. How's it taste?
It's in the Session to New England ballpark.
Okay.
You know when that nose is a little bit acetone, but not in a bad way? It's that quite heavily kegged. Does that make sense? So there's not necessarily a big hop profile. It's almost a bit... Yeah, chemical's not the right word, but it's not a big fruity nose or anything like that.
Okay. So you haven't got cryo hops leaping out of the glass at you or anything like that?
No, I'd say that's going to feature the classic combo. It might even be all three, Citra, Mosaic, Simcoe. I'd bet good money 2 of the 3 are involved. It's got a bit of a bitter finish, not a dry hop, just a bitter finish. And I reckon I'm going to say it's under 5% or 5% top. So here we go.
So off comes the wrapping paper. What have you got? What was in your fridge?
4.5%.
I don't recognise that can.
It is a Rattlehead IPA by Megadeth Beer Co.
What? Where's Katie getting these beers from?
I know she's done very well. So Megadeth, as you would expect, given it is the band Megadeth, it's not. They haven't brewed it themselves. It is brewed by Black Sheep. Contains oats and barley. There's not a hop.
I bet that's going to be more traditional English hops, that is.
4.5% Gold Award winning IPA is naturally hazy with tropical fruit flavours and citrus hop aromas. Well, I definitely get the citrus. You might be right. It doesn't taste very oily, though, which I do associate with sort of Jester, Harlequin, etc.
I'm just doing a quick internet check to see if I can work out what is in it. So I can't find what hops are in it, but this new Rattlehead, it seems to be a new range from Black Sheep, from what I can tell here.
Okay. I'd never heard of it. Perfectly drinkable. It's a session pale. I can't give it much more than that because...
What does it say on the front? Is it classed as an IPA?
Yes.
Right. Well, I think you sort of called that. There was no way you were ever going to work out what brewery that was. That was impossible. And we don't know the hop. So you got away with that one, I think.
Yeah. I'd be pretty confident with what is in there. But yeah, anyway, it's a passing grade of a beer for me. What have you got?
Well, like you, my drink is all wrapped up. Lisa has taken the lid off already because apparently the name of the brewery was on the lid. So she had to take it off, otherwise it would have given it away. Now, when she took the lid off, she gave the bottle a smell. And she obviously liked what she smelt because she swigged some out of the bottle. So this is going to be a beer that she likes, obviously.
Okay. Well, I mean, I like the fact that I've got wrapping paper. You've got I mean, yours looks like it's in a white paper bag and you look like a wino.
I think it's wrapped in 2 pieces of paper. There's some white and then some pink underneath it. I think it's just some writing paper of my daughter's that she just grabbed hold of. Well, okay, I'm just pouring this out. This looks very stouty.
The bottle made me think stout. Oh, yeah, that's a stout, isn't it?
Well, it's a plum porter. It certainly smells like a plum porter, but is it the Titanic plum porter or somebody else's plum porter? I'm trying to think what I've got in my fridge.
They have become more prevalent, haven't they? There's plenty of other people have done them. So
yeah, I had one just recently from Hobson's in Shropshire, which is really excellent. I don't think it's Titanic.
Would you say it's a traditional brewer or is it a craft brewery who's done one?
I just want to rip the paper off now and look, maybe it is Titanic.
So on that basis, obviously the hops aren't really a problem here. We know what we're getting with that. You reckon it's a plum porter of style. Could you fathom a guess at the ABV?
4.5%.
Okay.
Got to be less than 5, that is. The nose is perfect. What a plum porter should smell like. So
I think the last question then before you rip off the paper is, are you going to commit to it being Titanic or is it AN others?
Let me have another swig.
Any excuse.
I think it is Titanic. I think it is. The previous mouthful I was debating it, but that has got that aroma and taste that I get when I have a plum porter from Titanic, which I often do. You put me onto this beer a few years ago. You know, it's one of your favourites, isn't it?
It is. It's one of the nice ones that actually, for all that we talk about supermarket beers from time to time, you can get it in supermarkets, but it hasn't dropped off quality-wise.
So I'm taking off the pink paper. Then actually I've got some exercise, you can't see it on that screen, it's exercise book paper with ruled lines on it, Dave.
They've taken the wrapping very seriously. I like this.
With parcel tape. Right, off it comes. What is this? What is it? Oh, Dave.
Oh, you've got it. Well done, sir.
Porter. Now, I thought I was going to look like a complete buffoon on this segment, but no, I've got it. I mean, that is an easy one, though. Hands up, that is easy, isn't it?
Yes, but you could have second guessed it and started thinking who else is it Holy Goats? There's plenty of candidates now that are doing, or Holy Goats is a Damson one, which I had recently. That's why I thought of that. There are other ones, but I would say, as we've sort of alluded to through that Titanic's one, it does have its distinctive smell. Other people get close, but never quite. I think they're always slightly sweeter.
You know what we should do? We should get a range of plum porters and road test them against each other.
Oh, that'd be good fun. Let's book that in for the start of the year. I'm up for that. I say let's do plum porter over that beer that comes out in January.
The beer that shall not be named. Yeah, let's pretend it doesn't exist and we'll do some plum porters. Yeah, let's do it. And we'll get the Hobson's one in there as well. I'll get hold of some of that. Excellent. So there we are. What was in the fridge? Titanic Plum Porter and
Rattlehead IPA from Megadeth Beer Company.
This is Daftaboutcraft, the craft beer podcast. Daftaboutcraft, you're tuned into your favorite beer podcast.
Right, it's interview time now on Daftaboutcraft, and we are joined by a somewhat bigger brewery than we'd usually have on the podcast, but there's lots of interesting stuff to discuss. We are joined by Ed Simpson, the MD of Ossit and Salt Brewery. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks very much. Lovely to be here.
Not a problem. Yeah, we've gone straight to the top, Dave. We've got the MD, the big boss.
Yeah, as Dave touched on there, Ed, over the years of the way the podcast has developed, we've sort of ended up speaking to people who are essentially one-man bands. And we're sort of doing my crib notes before talking to you this evening. I sort of think of Ossit as regional and big enough, and obviously there is the salt thing, which we'll get to in a bit, but you employ over 650 people. This is a big enterprise now. I was quite staggered as to how large Ossit has got now.
Yeah, look, we do. Probably about 50 or 60 of those are on the brewing side. Then we've got 32 pubs. And so a large sort of quantity of the guys who work with us are working in our various pubs across the UK, across the north, and a couple down in London. So yeah, it is. It's a big company, but it's grown over 27 years now, nearly 3 decades, and so it's been I suppose an organic growth. It's still very much independently owned and family owned. So yeah, but it is us now.
Just to put it into context for our listeners, how would you compare size-wise to the likes of Northern Monk?
Probably on the brewing side, for one side of the brewery, probably a similar size to Northern Monk, I would say, yeah. And then obviously we just got a lot more pubs than they have. But yeah, in terms of the brewing side, I'd say pretty similar.
Now, me and Dave both received a package in the post, and we love packages in the post. But this package was not like a package we've received before, because this package was in a metal box. Talk us through it. Explain to the listeners what's in the box and what it looks like.
What you should have had is essentially we've sort of taken these metal containers and we've spray painted our new sort of evolved wrap logo onto the box, and then inside is our sort of core wrap range of a few. I imagine you would have got a few specials in there as well, hopefully giving you an overview of what we've launched in terms of our craft range from Ossit.
I've never seen a box like this before. I've just picked it up off.
It looks like something out of World War II, doesn't it?
It does. It's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah.
That wasn't just for us. Everybody gets that when they buy it.
No. Well, we've sort of done it especially for certain people we wanted to send our beers out to. So we don't really sell that. We just sort of send it out to certain people.
That's even more special then. Awesome. Yeah. So the beers that are in this box, part of the rat range, Ossit's step into craft. You've got salt on the other leg of the operation, but this is Ossit's craft range.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, White Rat, everything started from White Rat, really. So one of our brew pubs is called the Rat and Ratchet in Huddersfield. And I think it was back in 2013. I think it was 2013. We were constantly releasing different rat brews out of the Rat and Ratchet. And one of the brews that came out was called White Rat. And it didn't get released with any more fanfare or push than any other beer. But for whatever reason, Hoppy Pale, it sort of, excuse the pun, it grew legs of its own. And without a real push, White Rat became this beer that just kept going to the point where it became our biggest, sort of bigger than the beers we were growing out of Ossit. We couldn't brew it out of the Rat and Ratchet anymore because it was too much volume required. So we So essentially brought it into the Ossett range. We've got our Ossett sort of, if you like, classic range of Ossett Blonde and Excelsior, Silver King, etc. But White Rat always sort of stood slightly apart. And it felt like the right time, really, when we talked about developing a craft range out of Ossett. It felt very natural that White Rat was sort of the hero of that sort of family. And with the experience we've had of salt, we've obviously got a history of growing and building a craft brand. We wanted to sort of see what we could do on the Rat range, and we've got an exceptional caliber of brewers at Ossett, not just Paul Spencer, who's been with us for 25, I think, of those 28 years, but also 27 years, but also, Matt Halgate, who's joined us from Vocation, Gary Farlow, who's joined us from Vocation, bring with them a lot of craft credibility and a lot of craft credence as well. So we had an amazing team of brewers at Ossett, and we thought, why not use that expertise to see what we can develop on the Rat side. So earlier this year, we launched the Rat range with the various different incarnations of Rat led by White Rat, and so far it's been really exciting. It's been a real journey. We've got a calendar of releases coming since the original core Rat range came out, and it's been really fun.
I went to the Rat and Ratchet 7-8 years ago, probably. I remember.
Right.
I reckon it's probably changed a fair bit, and I remember that there were Rat beers going on. Obviously, I would say White Rat actually now tastes very old school. I would say it's a real throwback beer with how dry and how crisp it is with the hops. It's Cascade, Columbus, Amarillo, but it's not fruity. It's not fruity at all.
No, it's pretty piney and pretty. I mean, it's a really, if you're putting it in the craft circles, it's a proper westy feel to it, isn't it? And it's got that absolute sort of piney bitterness. I mean, the IBU sort of bitterness level is 60. So for anyone who doesn't know their IBU level, that's really high, especially for a 4% beer. We always talk about it having a bite, and that's what it's always. It's got that old school feel to it.
Talking about beers with fruit, I've opened Lab Rat. This is the first time I've had this. Wow, this is all the fruit, isn't it? This is a modern sour beer, in my opinion.
Absolutely agree. And it was Lab Rat was one of the core beers we released when we released the first range of the Rat range, and the first one was a key lime pie sour, but we're sort of rotating through different incarnations. I think we've got strawberries and cream coming next year at some point and whatnot. There's going to be a sort of a release every so often, every quarter or so of a new sour, and the latest one is the raspberry apple ice cream. That's gone down really well. I was a big fan of that beer.
That's excellent. If you'd have given me that and said, guess the brewery, I could easily have said Vault City and then be surprised when I found out it was Ossett. You're not going to do anything silly like blue beers or green beers, are you?
Not planned at the moment. Got the next year, the 2026 calendar looks very varied with different XPAs, IPAs, NEPAs. We've got some really interesting stouts, some more sours. As well as doing that, we're looking to do something called Hype Rat, which is very much allowing the brewers to do something even more experimental, giving them a bit more free range in terms of what they want to do. We've started a barrel age project, which is in its infancy, but we're really excited by that. I think Matt and Gaz had a real experience of a phenomenal barrel age project. They were developing a Vocation, so they've got a lot of experience with that. So we're always trying to sort of push boundaries, and I think even with salt, we were very much doing that as well with the Hexagon project that we had for we had the tagline "Brew Without Limits." And that's what we were very much trying to do, and just keep trying to bring things that are interesting to the party.
So are you brewing round the clock on shifts?
We are now. I think we start at something like 6 o'clock on a Monday and finish at 10 p.m. on a Friday. So we get weekends off, but it is round the clock now.
This is interesting because me and Dave have this conversation where we reckon that if you're brewing on shifts like that, it's very easy for the brewers to become quite bored of what they're doing. So for you to say, we're thinking of doing this to give the brewers a bit more freedom, that's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we've got a lot of beer coming out. I think the benefit of having both Ossett and Salt, and obviously we've got the brewery in Saltaire, but a lot of the beer we produce is coming from Ossett as well, just because with the capacity we need. So there is a lot of MPD. We do a lot of MPD, and we have tried to slightly cut that down, because I think in craft you can overrun with MPD and not actually think about what's right for production in this instance and what's making sense from a commercial perspective in terms of releasing, especially when you're doing bigger volumes. So we've tried to be more focused, a bit more thoughtful with our MPD calendar over the next year. But But obviously you've got the whole cask side as well as the keg side. So we've got the Trip Hop series coming out next year, which is 12 releases, 3 hops in every release, and looking to dry hop out cask beers on a regular basis. We've been developing sort of more dry hopping ideas. We looked at Excelsius and gone to dry hopping with that and made that, I guess, a lot more fruit forward, a lot more hop forward than it was previously. I love that beer. It's always been a great beer. It's always been a champion beer going back in time for decades, but we've just tweaked it slightly to give it a bit more of that hop forward profile. So yeah, with the cask, with the keg, with the MPD, they are brewing around the clock, but I think they're certainly not brewing 1 or 2 beers. They're brewing several beers apart from the core that we're doing regularly.
Just to sort of tap into, as we've touched on there, you're brewing all the time. What's the sort of division of that, like cask to keg, and what's taking up a lot of the production essentially?
It's probably 50-50. I mean, in terms of on the Osset side, White Rat makes up, in terms of our core range of cask, it makes up 50%. So we're doing a lot of White Rat, a lot of Osset Blonde, and then sort of Silver King, Barguest, Excelsius, and specials in the background. And obviously then we have a lot of specials, as you mentioned, coming out of the Rat and Ratchet in cask as well. On the keg side, we do a lot of volume with Duke. We recently released our Apocalypse, which is done really, really well. There's a lot of volume of that coming out. The keg cask split is probably about 50-50, if I'm honest, at Osset certainly.
But what is lovely to hear is the enthusiasm in your voice, because as breweries get bigger, I guess the demands become greater and the stress becomes greater, but you speak with a real vibrancy about what you're doing, which is lovely to see.
Oh, thank you. Well, look, I love what we do. I think that we've got a team that are incredibly passionate across both brands, across Osset and Salt. We're constantly keeping everyone tasting and updated, and we bring the team in as much as we possibly can to inspire with ideas of where we should be going, what we should be doing from an MPD perspective. And I genuinely think our beer gets better and better. And I would say that, but I genuinely believe it. I think I wouldn't shy away from the fact that I don't think it has always been completely consistent. I think it really is now. I think we've nailed down what we're doing. And actually, when you get a beer out of the Osset or Salt stable, you know what you're getting, and it's going to be a really good, well-made beer. And so, yeah, it's exciting doing great beer well. It's exciting continuing to ideate with new bits and pieces coming onto the market, and that's quite exciting as well.
So what would be the difference fundamentally between an Osset beer and a Salt beer?
That was a really clear answer probably 6 months ago. It's probably not as clear now. An Osset beer, traditionally, as you said, we've established ourselves over 27 years as a regional cask brewer. That's what we've always been known as. We've very rarely ventured into keg. We did a bit of lager under a label, a brand called Yon for a while. But really, it was very much, it was cask that we did. And I guess Pale Ale was what we did really well. Salt very much was the keg craft brand that looked after that side of things. As the brands, I guess, have got closer together, as the teams have got closer together, and as we've brewed more on one site than we had before, we've used our skill sets to try and make sure, because I have an issue with the sort of separation that I guess craft and cask as categories have, because I think it's nonsense, to be honest. You ask yourself, what is craft? Well, it's ultimately sort of independent brewing at a certain scale. And so I don't think format necessarily determines what that should be. So I guess in Salt, we look to do some cask. We have done some cask. And then in Osset, we've expanded into keg. And I think, as I say, we've got phenomenal brewers who can do both things very, very well. And so we thought, well, why do we need to have Osset as this and Salt as this? I think they can very much play in the same arenas, and they are doing now. And I think for our benefit, to be honest, it's great. I think we want to certainly move the perception of Osset as a traditional regional cask brewer to just being a great independent brewer of different styles and in different formats. That's what we'd like to be.
Do you think that's a disservice to brewers these days when they're seen as traditional?
Do you know what? It's a very interesting question, because tradition is such a key part of, I guess, if you look at cask brewing particularly, it is such a key part of it, and there's such heritage in it that I never want to do away with that. There's massive value in that. So I don't think it's at all a disservice in that sense, because I think part of our pub culture has always been around the cask and hand pulls, and it's a unique part of our British culture as well. Having that format, it's not done very many other places around the world, certainly not done to the level that we do in this country. So we should be proud of that heritage, that tradition. And there are loads of cask ale producers who specify with cask, and that's what they do, and they do it incredibly well. I suppose it's just that we've always been quite a progressive brewer. I think, over 27 years, we've always been trying to be a progressive brewer, and that's led by Jamie, our founder, who's, a very young he won't want me to tell you his age, but a very young 50-something-year-old, who's always looking forward. He's very much young at heart, and he always he's not one of these people who's set in sort of tradition and that's the only place, although he does value his story enormously because he's done an incredible job over that time. But I think we in beer have a responsibility as brewers to keep looking forward and to keep moving forward, because I think there's always going to be the next generation of drinkers, and you've got to meet them where they are as much as you've got to retain your heritage. I think what's beneficial in what we are doing, especially and in the cask scene, is that I think what we're understanding of younger drinkers is that they want heritage, provenance, authenticity, integrity, all those things. And all those things, you don't find them anywhere else more prominently than in cask beer. Yeah, I hope I've answered your question. I've probably gone around the houses slightly, but...
No, not at all. Basically, I just wonder if brewers get pigeonholed as to being, if they're traditional, they're old school and not moving forward and not embracing changes in modern styles and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think they do. And I think we're conscious of that, having been around as what you'd call a traditional regional cask brewer. And that was great, your comment about tasting a lab brand, thinking it might be something from Volt. That will ultimately come down to the quality of the liquid. But also, as I say, how the look and feel of the brand. I think that's probably why traditional cask brewers get pigeonholes, because, in reality, a lot of that traditional cask sector does look slightly outdated at times and out of touch. So it's important we continue to evolve. And I think more and more are doing that now.
Just wanted to return to what you had said a few minutes ago, Ed, where you said, 6 months ago, it would have been a lot easier to differentiate an Ossett from a Salt. I live in a village in Suffolk, and we have a pub 1 minute down the road. Not even that, 30 seconds, and I can be in there. A few weeks ago, Silver King was in there.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah, and it was great. I really, really enjoyed it. This pub got taken over a little while ago, new owners and whatnot, and what has always been on, Apocalypse as well.
Okay, yeah.
Now, I would know that is the same brewery with two different labels. A lot of people wouldn't. Do you think there's a point where you can just amalgamate and everything comes under one banner? Or
so it's a really good question. I think the answer to that is no in a short phrase. And I think because we internally, although we're under the same ownership of the same person and everything as well, but we've always kept them as separate brands, and they always will be separate brands, because I think that we've got two breweries, one in Saltaire, one in Ossett. So so they're 45 minutes apart for starters. We do obviously brew out of Ossett simply because of the volume requirements, but it's really interesting thinking back. I've been in the business for 2.5 years, but I know well the story of the foundation of Salt, and I think one of the reasons Salt was established as its own independent entity was probably because of one of the challenges was, how do we bring Ossett in to be accepted as and especially then back in 2018 when craft was a slightly different beast to what it is now, is how do we establish Ossett with that same level of integrity, respect, whatever you want to put it, or authenticity, how people look at it and see that. And I think the decision was made, well, actually it's going to be a lot easier to do that, establishing a different brand with a great building in the old Tramshire from 1904, amazing building. And so that's why Salt was established. And I think it will always remain that separate brand. Why I say it's less easy to distinguish is simply because of the styles of beer coming out now, especially from Ossett. We've got that craft range out of Ossett as well, whereas we didn't before. But they will always be different brands. And I suppose in a funny way, there are different stages of life. I mean, you've got Ossett that is far more of a heritage established brand in and of, in its entirety, but actually as a craft brand, it's now in its infancy. Whereas Salt is a younger brand overall, but it's now quite a mature craft brand. So it's that interesting sort of difference between the two brands as well.
you would say there about Ossett and the craft beers being in their infancy. I will say I've now had all three, because I had the middle one, which I forget the name of it. It was 6% and it was really good. But anyway,
okay.
And that was a little while ago because I got too excited because we've been waiting to sort of get it in the diary for a little while. But what I did save was King Rat.
Okay.
And you say it's in the infancy. The beers that you are producing, you can tell the amount of experience you must have on board, because they are coming out as fully fledged, like sort of hitting the ground running beers, aren't they? This is a good dipper. This is a very good dipper.
Thank you. I think in terms of the quality of beers produced, I couldn't agree more. I think we're producing some of the best craft beers around immediately, and that's credit to Matt Gaz and his brilliant team over at Ossett, because they do have a wealth of experience. And I think Matt was Brewers Journal Brewer of the Year in 2021, and he's got a lot of credence. Yeah, we have got that experience, which is great. We already had a really good brewing team, and Paul Spencer, who's been with us and now looks after our brew pub side. Really, he was head brewer for 25 years, so he was an incredible cask beer producer as well. So yeah, we have got excellence in our team, which hopefully showcases itself in the beers, and it allows us to be a bit more experimental quite quickly as well.
It does. I think I'd say with King Rat there, that's Citra, Galaxy and Topaz. And again, it's slightly throwbacky, not in like going back 10 years or something like White Rat, but it's really full and it's really stone fruity, and it's
Yes.
boozy. Like, it doesn't dress it up and sort of you think, oh, I didn't realise this was 6.5%, 7%. You know you're drinking it, don't you?
You do, 100%. And we just released one called Smog Rat, which is an 8.4% double NEPA. And that also has that same level of punch to it, but it's a great beer. It's a really good beer. So yeah, we're pushing the boundaries slightly, which is nice.
Well, you've opened the dipper there, Dave, and I've opened Fat Rat, a marshmallow, chocolate and hazelnut stout.
This will be interesting because I was going to say, we've talked a lot and vocation has come up quite a few times. That feels a very vocation-y palate. What would you say?
In the past, me and Dave have had a slight issue with some vocation stouts, which we found too sweet. That's our biggest gripe.
Okay.
This is not like that. Imagine being in the nicest hotel, right? And you get into the bedroom, this lovely big bed, and you lie on it. This beer is like...
Where are you going with this, Dave?
This beer is like lying on the finest Egyptian cotton and then having a lovely velvet blanket thrown over the top of you. So lovely and smooth.
Going to clip anything off for socials. It's that, isn't it?
That's fantastic. It's a great beer, and I think we've got some different variations of Fat Rat coming next year. I think peanut butter and chocolate. Towards Christmas, a raspberry coconut and tonka stout, which I'm quite excited to taste as well.
Yeah, that is lovely. It's really delicate, I think is the word. Some of these stouts can be a bit in your face and sugary sweet and all of that. And there's no lactose or anything in there either, is there?
No.
I like that. So we've had 3 beers there, all very different styles, and we're agreed, all very, very, 4 beers actually, very, very good, very different, but really well accomplished, which is not surprising because you've got a great brewing team there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where it's all at, really. But yeah, absolutely.
You've sort of hinted at what might be coming, but what can people expect from both labels? What can people get excited about before the end of the year?
The raspberry tonka stout, that's going to be coming out towards the end of the year. We've got, I think, another iteration of Lab Rat, I believe, coming out before certainly the early next year, if not the end of this year. So Smog Rat's just come out. We've got a really exciting collaboration with a new band, but a band that have just hit the sort of heavy rock, I guess, metal scene, who have really taken off. Yeah, selling out shows, and not just in this country, but around the world quite quickly. And we've got a collaboration coming out with them with their EP King of Terrors, which is I think it's a 7% NEPA, but we're excited about that. So yeah, plenty of really exciting releases.
And you've got yourself on the Craft Brew Festival circuit as well.
We have. They feel like they're doing all the right things in terms of bringing some revitalised energy to the craft scene, and so it felt like a really good fit with especially releasing the Rat range. So yeah, they've been great, and the ones we've done so far have been good, and I think we've got another handful before the end of the year. So all the reports from there have been really, really positive.
Do you think, just touching on releases and that, whether you'll keep doing what you're doing in the sense of it sort of sounds like you're releasing to the march of your own drum. You're just going to keep doing what you guys want to do and not necessarily be dictated to what the time of the year and everything is.
We've got Ice Queen, which is coming out at Christmas, which is a spin-off of Silver King. So there's that. Then we've got Snow Rat coming out. We absolutely do look at seasonals, which make a lot of sense. But I think it's where we've tried to be, I guess, a bit more disciplined is that core range of special releases through the year, but we absolutely do have seasonal stuff that comes in and out. And we've got some great collabs. We've done a collab with Northern Monk, and so we're looking forward to releasing that. And so we've got other bits and pieces outside of the trip hop and the Rat range.
How do collabs sort of work for you guys? Because obviously you mentioned Northern Monk there. Like, for a lot of breweries, Northern Monk would almost come in as the dominant partner of it. From talking as we have been, like, you'd sort of be meeting as equals. So do you do it where you're looking to sort of do powerhouse collabs where it's big brewery, or are you sort of also trying to find smaller ones and bring them in on?
Often it's as simple as relationships and where relationships are. And with, many of our guys, including Jamie, gets on really well with Russell, and we've had a long-standing relationship with Norman. Obviously, we're very close to each other geographically, so it's made sense from that point of view. And so we just, often it's a home and away. So you'll agree to do a home and agree to do away. We've just done an away one with Brew York, so it can work in many ways. I mean, we went over to Joppen earlier in the year to do one with Salt. Collabs come about in various ways, but often it's through relationships that are built through the brewers or owners or whatnot, and that's generally how they come about. Collabs can be both with other brewers and can be outside of brewing as well. So we've done a lot within music with Salt. We did collabs with Bullet by Valentine and Trivium and Fight Star and whatnot, which was great fun as well. And so they come in all shapes and sizes and also through lots of different ways.
So looking to the future, it's been a very transitional couple of years for you. Next 2 years, the next 5 years, what happens during that time? Where are you going to take it all in?
Well, I think from an OSIP point of view, it's very much about continuing to drive great cask beer through the classic range of what we do, and continue out the Rat and Ratchet, and also the Riverhead, which is another brew pub that we have that we bring out sort of more. I guess we focus there on more classic, quintessentially English hops and whatnot. Really growing that Rat range, both in keg and in cask, is going to be our focus with OSIP. We want to establish that as a really powerful craft range within the category. Salt, it's very much to continue doing what we're doing. I think we've established ourselves in terms of the size of Salt, and its presence in the category is quite significant. And then Alpaca's is doing a great job for us on in terms of, I guess, bridging that into mainstream craft and where those lager drinkers may be reluctant to step into craft. Hopefully it gives them an opportunity to put their toe in the craft water and be a bit of a gateway for them into craft. On both sides of the fence, it's really just continued growth and establishing core brands, then keeping on doing exciting stuff that keeps everyone interested and keeps everyone engaged with the breweries.
Well, I've got to say, definitely kept us engaged with these beers tonight. They're absolute knockout.
We'll have to get you some of the specials as they come out, because they're great as well.
No, please do. I think we both agreed, Dave. We save a lot of our love for the little man in this industry because we feel as though they don't get the credit they deserve sometimes. But these are very, very good beers, aren't they, Dave?
They are, and I don't necessarily still feel like we've suddenly sold our soul and have gone corporate here, because what comes across from you, Ed, is that what you're doing is still very much beer is the focus. It's not. I mean, I'm sure it has to be to a certain point. You're going to have KPIs and bottom lines, and it does feel like the values of a business that's been set up nearly 30 years ago are still very much intact. It's not been sort of sold just to chuck beer out and move on type thing.
Absolutely not. And I think we will ultimately live or die by the quality of the liquid in the can or in the keg or in the cask. And that is where we'll succeed or fail. And we've seen it with our competitors who have put the bottom line in front of the quality, and they've gone out of business. And it's as simple as that. We'll never do that. It'll always be quality first. And that's led by Jamie, who's the owner, who has always made that very, very clear to us as a team that he wants to make great beer first. Obviously, he's, business and keeping everyone in a job and keeping the lights on and keeping growing. We all have ambitions for the business. We all have ambitions for the brands. And I'm not backwards in saying that. That's really exciting as leading this business. But ultimately, we're all in it to make great liquid. And I think that will always be the case as long as we've got people who are genuinely passionate about beer at the core of the business. And we have the running from all the way through the business, which has got people who love beer. One of the greatest things on a weekly basis is OSIP started as a brew pub. It started as a brew pub out of the Brewers pub, which is literally on the doorstep of King's Yard, where we have the brewery. And every Friday, most of the team go down to that brew pub and get stuck into whatever new or existing beers are there. And that's the exciting part of what we do. And our head of sales, Rich, is like a small puppy dog running around the brewery with every new release that comes out that he's just poured out a tank, trying to get everyone to taste in the office. He's a massive beer head as well. And obviously our brewers speak for themselves. So there's loads of love for the good liquid. And we're always making sure that we are competing with the best liquid and tasting against the best liquid out there. And ultimately, it's then our job to try and get as much exposure and as many people, such as yourselves, hopefully enjoying it and making positive comment and giving credence to credibility to what we're doing, because I think there's a lot to be excited about and where we're going with the beers that we're making.
Daftaboutcraft, powered by Craft Brew Festival.
This is Tried and Tested, where we pinpoint our favourite beer since we last spoke to you. What we do is we scroll through our Untapped feed, see what we've drunk, and see what sticks in the mind as being really good, and see what our ratings were. Dave, what have you been enjoying the most?
Just before we started recording, we were talking about this and the sense that I've drunk quite a lot in the last month. But if you looked at my Untapped, you wouldn't think I have. I've checked in very little. Now, there has been some duplicates in there, but equally, for whatever reason, I'm not that worried about checking stuff in now. It just sort of doesn't get me going in the same way it used to almost.
Yeah, I think it's nice to use as a reference tool. And that is where it kind of ends for me as well. I find myself now going to beer festivals and I might have 10 or 15 different beers and I don't check any in because I want to live in the moment and not feel obliged to rate them there and then.
Agreed. And it's almost becoming a point of now I won't do it unless there's an extreme, i.e. very, very good, really sticks in the memory, want to give out the praise that it deserves, or very bad, probably needs just flagging. A lot of beers, as we've said for a while, just fall into that good middle now. Nothing wrong with them, but are you going to remember them? Probably not. But I will say, moving on to what I have had, friend of the show, Tom from Dark Element, and I were chatting a little while ago, and he said, I'll send you some beers. And then he, as brewers do, got busy and didn't. And then I just messaged him and he said, oh, I've forgotten. I will do it. I'll do it. I wasn't actually messaging about that. But anyway, he very kindly sent me 12 beers, which was 6 releases, 2 of each release. And I sent you the sours because I didn't want to waste them. But the other beers have all been fantastic. And it's difficult to pick of those 5 anyone in particular out because I feel like he's really hit his stride now. We've always been on the bandwagon with Tom. We got on at the very start. And then we had him on the podcast when he celebrated his birthday at the start of the year, I believe. So it's coming up for another year. And I think he's had a really good year. And I did tell him that his beers now just stand up with anyone else's, which we've said all along. So the 2 that stand out a little bit were Colossus, which is a dipper, and Fury, which was another good pale. But his beers just generally to a beer are top notch. So it's more just tried and tested. I know what I'm getting with Dark Element now. If I see it anywhere, I'm quite happy to buy it. He's got his little USP on his beers now, which is they're always a little bit danker than you expect. He never really goes full fruit, sort of tropical bombs and stuff. And I like that now increasingly as a drinker, and he nails it. So for me, my tried and tested is more a brewery, and that's just Dark Element.
Isn't it lovely when you have full confidence in a brewery and every beer they put out, you know it's going to reach a certain standard? And he falls into that category, I think. Now, you've just heard our interview with Ossit, and on there, Ed mentioned Smograt. Well, I have now had Smograt, and Smograt is absolutely awesome. And I'm not picking it because we've just spoken to Ossit. I'm picking it because this beer is immense. I noticed that Ossit had a little Black Friday sale on recently, so I put in an order, bought about a dozen cans, and one of them was Smograt. And it turned up, and I just poured it out into the glass and drank it, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is a very good New England. I drank it quite quickly, and I got to the bottom of it, and I looked at the can and realised it wasn't just a New England, it's a double New England. It's 8.4%. Does not drink like 8.4%, drinks like about 5%. Lovely, fruity, hazy, no alcohol burn, just perfect. Really, really good. And last weekend I was at Birmingham Craft Brew Festival, and a few people came up to me and said, oh, what beer have I got to try? What beer can I go for? And Ossit were there pouring, and one of the beers was Smograt, and I got so many people to go and try it, and then to watch them as they drank it. So this is a beer for everybody. It may be 8.4%, but it's a beer for everyone, and everybody loves it. Smograt. Get hold of a can. It's also in supermarkets as well.
Well, perfect. I mean, I don't think I've heard you give a beer a better recommendation for a long time than that. That was a highly ringing endorsement. Normally at the end of an episode, it would be hype or tripe, and you'd get the music or one of our other different features. But this time around, we've got a very different beer, which is more about the cause behind it than the beer itself. So, as alluded to at the start of the episode, this has been in the papers and things like that. There is a charity, I say a charity, they are part of a charity called Alive, Hoppiness Brews. So, Alive Activities, they do dementia-friendly gardens, and Alive itself is a dementia charity. And in the gardens, they have grown hops, British hops, in care homes and retirement villages. And the purpose of that, obviously, is to brew beer. And Hoppiness Brews linked up with Wiper and True, and they produced 100 Not Out Best Bitter. So, as I was alerted to with this beer, we went onto Wiper and True's website, ordered it, and then got Guy Manchester, who is the driving force behind the project, to tell us all about it. It's also worth pointing out that another organisation involved in this is St Monica Trust. They're celebrating their centenary. It's another collaboration with that as well. But essentially, the beer itself, a little bit incidental in one way, because it is all about raising awareness for dementia and helping in that sense with charity work. But it would be remiss of us not to at least try the beer and see how these British hops that have been grown have fared.
Absolutely. So this is a 4.2% best bitter, which probably is in your wheelhouse a little bit more than me. Although, having said that, I'm changing. I think it's old. I think it's old age, because I'm enjoying these types of beers more and more now, especially out and about in pubs. Maybe it's because craft breweries are doing more and more takes on best bitters, and I'm sort of seeing more of them. It could be that.
I generally don't have a best bitter as a style that I would run to. I don't mind them. I think of traditional styles as ones I prefer much, much more than this. But at the risk of sounding like a broken record, I don't think, as long as it's perfectly drinkable, that's all that really matters with this beer. Like, I hope we're not going to taste it and go, oh, okay, yeah, and struggle to talk about it because it's for a good cause, but the beer itself is no good.
Right, while you were talking, I've just poured it out and had a little sip, and no, those comments don't apply. This is actually quite nice, very drinkable.
Yeah,
what do you think?
It is, isn't it? No, it is, isn't it? It is a best bitter. Mine has come straight out of the fridge. I think it would benefit from just being up to bit to room temp. I can see you've got a better head on yours. Has yours come out at sort of room temp?
I've had it up here for about half an hour. It came out of the fridge about half an hour ago, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably just benefited it, because a best bitter doesn't really, it's not refrigerated, is it? It should be room temp, cask, etc. But it is nice. It's got that classic sort of biscuit taste to it on the end. It's never going to do anything wildly exciting, but nor should it. But as you say, it is drinkable.
Very much. I'm thinking a nice bit of cheese and some crackers would go very nicely with this around about now.
Yes, I was thinking you may as well go all in and have it at a pub off cask with a Sunday roast or something.
Yeah, I think that would be very nice. Yeah. On cask, I think it would be epic. A little bit creamy, a little bit fuller maybe.
It's coming through actually now, that real malt biscuit on the back and a little bit sort of sweet. Not quite caramel, but getting there. Like it's nice. It's nicely done. Wiper and True, a brewery we don't necessarily talk about loads and loads.
Wiper and True, they have those classic cans, don't they? So they're white cans with black and gold writing on them. And you can spot a Wiper and True can a mile away. And just for clarification, this has got a different presentation to those traditional Wiper and True cans. But they were never really on my radar. I sort of thought, oh, Wiper and True cans always look the same. Are all the beers the same? It's a weird mentality, but so I'd never really drunk much. But I went to the tap room in the summer and I was blown away by this place because it's epic. For listeners who've been to Track in Manchester, this is like Bristol's version of Track, only maybe a little bit bigger. Lots of greenery inside there, really lovely atmosphere, lots of nooks and crannies to sit, really nice. But also blown away by the beer because it's very, very good. Really good.
Well, we couldn't just order one can each of this, so we did actually order some other Wiper and True beers and split them up. And I was very impressed actually with what I had as well on top. Each was a bit different. They've got a nice range of pales for all styles and all strengths as well. And they did have a decent, I couldn't comment on them because I ordered them for you, but they did have a decent sort of sour offering as well and sort of takes in that sphere, didn't they?
Yeah, I think I bought a few of those. They're still in the fridge. I'm sort of keeping beers back ready for Christmas. And I've got some Wiper and True sours ready for Christmas. What I think about it, something else we should probably mention, Dolphin Brewery from Reading, who've been on the podcast before. I bought in their beers for Christmas previously because Andy was kind enough to send them to me. But they've now just started national shipping, so anybody can get them anywhere You don't have to be a friend of Andy to get them. You can order them through the website now. And I got a delivery just the other day ready for Christmas of about a dozen bottles, these wonderful sours from Dolphin. But what have you got, Dave, for Christmas? What are you looking forward to trying?
Well, it's been a bit different because the advent calendar sort of gets me to Christmas Eve. From a podcast perspective, all being well, we will hopefully rush out just in time for Christmas our beer and cheese episode, which is going to be lighter on beer, but for reasons that will become clear when you hear it, and we'll pair that up. So that's two things I'm looking forward to, because the calendar's gone really well so far. I say it every year. I think Katie sort of manages to somehow to improve it each year. And this year, with the blind element and the beers she's managed to sort of dig out, which have been quite surprising so far. That's been great. You very kindly sent me the Siren Caribbean series, which have just come out. So they will be consumed over Christmas. And then actually, my fridges, for all that we say we've just done a feature today from the fridge, my fridges are a little bare because I did try and make a big dent in them before moving house. So I'm left with mainly big stouts, which isn't necessarily ideal.
I was going to ask, so you've moved house recently. Did you do a bit of a cull on the fridges when you moved? Did you chuck anything away, or did you just drink them all?
I don't think anything got chucked because, as you said, with stouts, which were still largely in date, or even ones that are gone, I'm in the mindset that I'll try them, and if you open it and it smells it's gone, then fine. But as we know, stouts can last sort of up to a decade, can't they? I used to put that on bottles. So I just made a big dent in the fridges. So there is an argument they actually need replenishing before Christmas. Whether or where I do it from is still to be determined.
Let's put it out to the floor if there's listeners out there.
Yeah, by all means.
What should we be getting in for Christmas? What does Dave need to replenish the stocks with ready for Christmas? Your ideas would be really appreciated. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, email.
All ideas welcome. I'm not quite an open book because Dave's just spoke very well there of Dolphin, etc. I know those beers are good because we've had Andy on the podcast and they were good, but they're still not to my taste. And I kind of don't love getting loads from one brewery. So if there's places that you want to recommend where I could get a few different breweries other than the normal bottle shops online, etc., then I'd be very keen to hear those as well.
Yeah, anyway, back to this beer. I loaded my glass up when we started. That is all gone. We'll say there's a lovely lot of foam sticking to the inside of my glass. So this is a good beer, this. It's been well brewed, I think. It tastes great. It's not knocking the socks off anything. It's only 4% and a bit, but it is very well brewed and it tastes great. I'm going to pour a bit more into the glass. And while we're doing it, let's hear from Guy, who can tell us all about how this beer came about.
Thanks for your interest in 100 Not Out, the beer we've crafted with older people and people living with dementia. I'm Guy Manchester. I work for charity Alive Activities, and the concept of the beer is really down to me. Came from my weird little brain. We're an older people's charity, so the origin of the project was I work as a therapeutic horticulturalist for Alive Activities, so that's kind of gardening for wellbeing. I run sessions in care homes and manage Alive's dementia-friendly allotment, which is in North Bristol and Brentry. The idea came from one of the community gardens that I was running a session in many years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. There was a guy in the group who said he'd like to grow beer just as a joke. Sort of everyone laughed and thought, oh, Jeff, you are a wag. But it kind of sat in my head for a little while, and I started thinking about it and thought, well, we can't grow beer itself, but we can possibly grow one of the chief ingredients of beer, which is hops. So at this time, I had been an organiser of something called Bristol Hops Collective for about 3 years. I took over with a friend after the first couple of years. So this is a sort of patchwork farm of hops growers across Bristol who all have a hop plant in their back garden or at their allotment or sometimes in a container. And we all grow the hops, we harvest them on one specific day, we take them all to a local brewery, and the brewery turn it into a green hopped beer. So growing beer sort of the old-fashioned way and creating something sort of a bit with the freshest possible hop with that unique grassy floral notes that you get from fresh green hop. So I got myself a cutting from my hop plant. I took it up to Jeff. I said, here you go, Jeff, let's get this planted. We'll see what kind of a harvest we get. And that was kind of the start of the Hoppiness project, although it obviously wasn't the Hoppiness project then. A few years later, I had been sort of developing. So I'd got hop plants by now in all the community gardens that Alive runs. So we have quite a few hop plants around. I do like these therapeutic horticulture and green craft sessions, and I'd started crafting sessions around the hop. Lots of things to do with like reminiscence and sensory play and therapeutic horticulture and that like socializing sort of variety hour stuff, like putting together a playlist of old fashioned drinking songs that people could sing together. And I realized this is a powerful set of therapeutic tools for people living with dementia that like could have a much bigger impact than just doing it in the groups that I was doing it for. So I took the idea to our CEO and the team at Alive and said, I'd really like to take this into a care home and see if we can run with it and see what happens. The idea originally being just to sort of grow those hops, take them to Bristol Hops Collective, and they'd go into a collective brew, and I'd take like a couple of bottles back. So we did that as a pilot for 1 year with a really forward-thinking care home here called Deerhurst Care Home, who that's here in Bristol. Can take the wackiest of ideas to them, and they'll like embrace them and run with them, and they'll usually be a huge success. They really get invested in it. So we did that for the first year and honed down the content of the sessions and created a lovely beer and took it back up to the residents and got some amazing photos of everyone having a party together, drinking the beer, sort of very happy, singing songs again. Some people even danced on that occasion. So after that, I kind of bumped into someone from the University of Bristol who I sort of mentioned this to and said I'd like to take it a bit wider. And she said, this sounds like an incredible idea for a research project. So she found a fund that they could apply to, applied for a grant. And we ran the project last year, 2024, in another 2 care homes, as well as Deerhurst again, as a research project around sort of the benefits of what we were doing, the activities we were doing, and also a little bit challenging stereotypes about care homes and about older people and about dementia and what people want to do, challenging these disruption and taking hops and insects and soil into care homes, and this whole just changing the atmosphere in a care home and how like impactful it was and the benefit it had to residents. So we ran that with the University of Bristol, got a lot of publicity from it. It really captured the imagination. There was one news article on the local BBC website, and that just went crazy after that. We got The Guardian came, and their social media team did a really nice little reel that can still be found on Instagram and TikTok, I think, which got about 1.5 million views, and the One Show even came calling, and we had a little feature on the One Show, sort of on one of those final sessions, the celebration session. We were kind of like just settling down after that, wondering where we'd take the project this year, 2025. And we heard from someone at St. Monica Trust called Sean Davey. He's innovation lead there. So it was his first day in post, and like the Hoppiness project came across his desk, and he was like, this is incredible. We need this for St. Monica Trust next year. So he got in touch, and his idea was to take the whole project a bit bigger, which is what we've done this year. It's been St. Monica Trust's, so St. Monica Trust are a group of retirement villages across Bristol. There's 5 of them. They're pretty large in scale, basically like little villages. They've got shops and barbers, and they get entertainment come in, and they're really pushing the idea of older age sort of forward with these incredible spaces. They have care homes inside these villages as well. And it's their 100th anniversary this year. So Sean said it would be amazing if we could do this here and create this centenary beer for everyone. So yeah, we started doing that together this year. Also decided it'd be really nice if we could make our own beer. So Sean really wanted to scale it up, and rather than just planting 1 hop plant in the gardens, we were going to plant 100. We downsized that a little bit. We ended up with 48, and Sean also suggested that we turn the project into a CIC, a community interest company. So we started doing that. It's been quite a journey, sort of learning the tricks of business. And so like the idea now is that Hoppiness Brew, so this year was like a special collaboration with St. Monica Trust. We co-produced the beer with the residents there in the retirement villages. They had a hand in every step. They helped plant the hops. They helped tend and nurture the hops. They had input into the design of the can label, the design of the logo, the flavour notes of the beer, how the beer's been marketed, and all this stuff. So it's been a huge effort of co-production with St. Monica Trust, just like exclusively with them. The idea going forward now is that, so we contract brewed this year with Wiper and True. We took about 20 kilos of hops to them, and they brewed a really nice 4.2% best bitter old-fashioned beer, the sort of beer that like everyone used to drink before all these sort of trendier IPAs came in. And with like old-fashioned hops, so it's a really nice opportunity for a brewery to grow with traditional British hops, like things like Fuggles and Centennial and Challenger and Cascade, all these like really nice hops. So we paid Wiper and True to brew that beer. They've been absolutely amazingly supportive. They covered the duty for us, and they did it all at cost, and they're like really, really committed to the project. So they're a wonderful company with a really like good community outreach team who just love supporting the people in the local community, and they've been in it from the start. They did brewery tours for the very first time when we did the initial pilot, and they've been with us every step of the way. So they are now also helping us sell the beer through their website, because we didn't manage to get that set up in time on our own website and get the licenses and what have you. But next year we'll have that. So the idea is that we'll make a profit from this beer, and with the profit we'll fund the project going forward, so we can go back to the like initial aim of the project, which is to take therapeutic sessions into care homes that can't normally afford external activities to come in and run these sessions. Because we would really love to do a non-alcoholic version, a non-alcoholic beer, as well as the classic 4.2% bitter at some point, because obviously a lot of older people are on medications which can contraindicate drinking beer. So it'd be nice to make it as inclusive a drink as possible. There will be ructions if we don't do a gin at some point as well. So we've changed it from the Hoppiness Project to Hoppiness Brews, which gives us scope to sort of branch out in other kinds of alcohol. Yeah, and gin has definitely been the most popular suggestion, despite it being the West Country where you'd think people would want to drink cider. We'll get around to cider eventually.
Well, thanks very much, Guy. While you were talking there, I poured out the rest of the beer and had a few more sips. It's nice when you can drink beer and realise that you're benefiting a charity as well, Dave.
Yeah, dementia, in fairness, has affected my family. Both my grandparents, both my grandmothers suffered with it, and I think possibly one of my grandfathers did as well. So slightly worryingly, I suppose, it does potentially run in the family. So it is something that has touched my life to a degree. I must admit I was quite a lot younger when they passed, but that was involved as part of the process, unfortunately. So, and it does increasingly affect a lot of people. So yeah, as you say, it is nice to, in our own way, help by drinking a beer, and by proxy help a charity. There's nothing wrong with that, and it is a cause which is very deserving.
Yeah, absolutely. Full marks there for, Wiper and True putting their name to the beer, making the beer, and it's great. I can't argue with that at all. And it's obviously a horrible disease, dementia, and my dad was never diagnosed. My dad, to regular podcast listeners will know, died a few years ago. He was never officially diagnosed with dementia, but I'm sure he had some form of dementia. He was just very, very good at hiding it. Really interesting, actually. There were certain things he couldn't do towards the end. Like, he was a big railway fan, but towards the end he couldn't read railway timetables, and there was something going on there. Yeah, so it is nice to a little bit back and buy a beer and support a charity that is important.
Daftaboutcraft, brought to you with mosaic board print, makers of supreme beer mats.
Daftaboutcraft, the craft beer podcast.